Welcome back to the Respect the Drive podcast. I'm Tedward, and today, this episode, it's a little different. It's a little more conversational. I've got Eddy Segal back with me, and we're going to start having guests back on the show. Big, famous, big-time automotive guy. I don't know who we're going to have on. It doesn't matter. The point is that we're hanging out together, and today's episode, I really think is one of those, it's one of those ones, if you're in an airport or if you're sitting in your office, you may just shout out loud at us. So this is just your warning right here. Try not to yell at us out loud. If you're alone in your car, great. If you're at the gym on a treadmill, you're going to look weird when you tell us we're wrong, because today's episode, we just tell stories. We talk about a few things in the news, like the Corvette Z06 with its incredible flat plane V8 making 670 horsepower. This is crazy. And then Eddy goes into Subaru's Starlink, which apparently they've disabled in Massachusetts. And this is a poorly researched segment of the podcast. So if you're a Subaru fan, just withhold the angry letters. I get it. I know. And since this was recorded, Acura has released the successor to the Honda Cross Tour, the new Integra. We have a lot of things to say about this in the next one, but let's just leave it at that for now. But winter is coming, and it's time to put the toys away, not so they don't see snow, but so they don't see salt. The corrosive misery that is winter in New England is coming, and I know that I'm not driving my Porsche 911 or my E39 M5. My E92 M3 does all the heavy lifting and corrosion for me in this life. Maybe time for a new car coming soon. We'll talk about that in another episode. But if you need to put your cars away, give Garage 42 in Woburn, Massachusetts a call. And I think they might be at capacity at this point. So get yourself on a wait list. But if you really need to get things scurried away, go over to Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts. Yes, the same Bond Group that has been providing incredible cars for the YouTube channel, from Lancias to Ferraris to Vipers, all of the goods. They'll take care of your baby with some fuel stabilizer, a battery tender, and of course a nice warm place for it to sleep until the salt has washed away. And maybe I'll even take some photos for you when I'm there doing some work this winter. That way you know it's still there. But don't forget that your daily driver still needs to survive the winter, so check out Craft Detailing, both in Woburn, Massachusetts at Garage 42 and at their home store, Dedham, Massachusetts. They are going to take care of your car to make sure it doesn't waste away on you. And like my M5 and M3, we've opti-coated it. Yes, a ceramic coating, I'm hoping, is going to do the trick to make car care much easier this winter. So let's just jump into the scatterbrain clusterfuck. And by the way, there's some language in this one, so if you're really averse to foul language, just tune it off. Don't listen to it. I don't know. I probably swear a lot in this one because it's just me and Eddy shooting the shit. Here we go. I wanted to have you back because obviously I just want to hang out with you. And
Thank you.
This is the best way to get you in a room, to be like, hey, there's going to be microphones. And you're like, I'd love to talk and be heard.
You know me.
It's great. So I have had this story in my back pocket for the last week because I didn't want to tell you until we were on the mic. This is like the funniest thing. All right. So a friend of mine, this guy, Chris, he moves out to California, and him and his wife, I used to work with his wife. I actually used to work with both of them. They're great. Move out to California, and he buys a BMW M2. Now, he's trying to get himself into the car scene a little bit. He doesn't really know anybody. And so he asked me, where should I go? And I'm like, well, you know what you got to do? You got to go to Good Vibes Breakfast Club up on Angeles Crest, because that's the spot. That's the Friday morning spot where basically all of the rich and unemployed go up at, 7 to 11 a.m. on every Friday, which is such a weird thing to do, right? I mean, it's like, but if you can get away, if you can lie, take a sick day, or pretend you have a doctor's appointment, which was what everyone, you'll notice an influx in dental appointments on Friday mornings in the Los Angeles car community because everyone's just lying and going up to Angeles Crest to Good Vibes Breakfast Club, put on by our good friends Jay Ryan and his wife Nicole, who are fantastic. But anyway, he gets up there and he's asking me, like, what should I do? Is it going to be weird if I go there by myself? I'm like, absolutely not. This is a great place to go by yourself. and meet some friends. Just they're car people. They're there just like you. You don't need to have any ins. Just go in, and if you really want to say something, go up to Jay and just say, "Hi, I'm friends with Tedward." You'll be fine. So he goes there, and he just made a friend. And this guy comes up to him, and he's like, "Oh wow, great M2. Like, do you track it? What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I haven't been to the track yet, but I want to." And the guy looks at him and he goes, "Well, there's a great track day event that we've been putting on, and it's that you should come to, 2 to track." And so Chris is like, oh, okay. And so Chris is thinking, 2 to track. Like, what kind of vibes am I putting out? He's like, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but why is this guy just coming up to me and inviting me to the 2 to track day? And so he's engaging, and he's like, great, yes, okay, send me the information. Is this guy hitting on me? What's going on, right? Okay, so he gets home, and like 24 hours pass, and the guy had his Instagram, and so he DMs him, and he's like, hey, here's the information on the track day, and he looks at it, and it's not 2 to track, it's Toge to track.
Oh my God.
Toge, the number 2 track. And so it's all these old Toge guys who probably run in Glendora Mountain Road and all the Angeles Crest roads and stuff, like absolute animals. And then they're like, well, I guess we'll do something at Willow Springs or at Laguna Seca or whatever. And so he's sitting there for like 24 hours like, man, this guy just came up to me and invited me to a really oddly named gay track day.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That must have been what a weird experience, because the whole time he's probably like, what the hell what did Tom send me?
Well, also
on?
it's really funny because I think 2 to track is such a funny name for a gay racing group, because you're basically saying like, yo, we're so gay that we shouldn't even be here.
Oh my God.
But now I'm like, I got to tell my buddy over at Out Motorsports, Jake, I'm like, you should really do a racing series called 2 to track. And everyone's just comes as gay as they can. We paint the cars, we do it in drag, and that's the 2 to track day.
That sounds like a great day.
I just think this is so funny.
That's hysterical.
And I'm like, never have I ever put Toge and 2 into the same. So anyway, to me, this is like my favorite automotive mix-up.
Oh my God.
That is some sitcom material.
Totally.
It's great.
That's a Seinfeld episode.
Is that not the most, like, of course that happens at a Jay Ryan event. That is so funny.
God, that's so funny. Oh my.
All right. So here's the thing. We got a lot to talk about.
We do. A lot's happened.
So we've got some things going on, like this Corvette Z06.
Oh.
We do a little bit of news here. Now, I'm the type of person where I don't follow car news that closely until I'm driving the car. Like, I maybe I'm an idiot, and that's probably most of it. But when people like show off new specs and everything, it almost means nothing to me until I've driven it. It's the way that if you had a house. Mm-hmm. And you were telling me, I'm going to put a second story on this building and I'm going to do this. And you explained to me everything you did before you did it. I have no idea what you're saying unless you show me A, a 3D model, or B, I'm in the new house.
Okay. So you're a visual learner.
I need visuals. I need to experience a thing. It doesn't add up in my brain.
So how do you get around with online dating then?
Oh, well, that's why I stopped doing that.
All right.
And I've been wrong about it all the time. Do you know how many fucking weirdos I've met? It's the craziest thing.
Oh, my God.
Where I'm like, huh. Okay, so this
Z06.
Z06. What is... I mean, obviously, the big story here is flat plane V8. That sounds like a Ferrari.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Chevrolet, if this is the end for the naturally aspirated V8. Now, you and I have been hounding on this for years. We've been saying, oh, this is the end. But I can't see them topping this.
No, this is the craziest thing in the world.
I mean, I figured 550, maybe 600. 670 horsepower.
You have a nearly 700 horsepower NA V8.
That's insane.
And it sounds good. Like, really good.
Yeah, it sounds like if you put me in a room, blindfolded, couldn't see anything, and you played it, I would have said probably a 458 with an exhaust on it.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it revs. It has the idle. I mean,
it's insane.
It's perfect.
It's absolutely nuts. All right. What about what we expect performance-wise? And here's the thing. I want to lead with this. The big thing that I've been seeing in Corvette land lately is that they have very leaky transmissions. So all these Stingrays, I've seen cars as low as 32 miles having these transmission failures where they're just pissing fluid. This is the thing.
I didn't know that.
Okay, I was hoping you were going to come in and tell me all this stuff. So this is the thing I've been hearing about, and I don't know if it's big enough. I don't know if they've done a recall or if they're going to, or if it's even big enough for that. But that is the thing that I've been hearing. So every new car, especially a ground up car, like a full blown ground up car, has some Achilles heel. Right? We all have this stuff. So, everyone likes to poke fun at S65s and BMWs to say, oh, rod bearings, or they like to talk about crank hubs in F80s, or they like to talk about head studs in C63s, and they will like to talk about all this other stuff, right? Here's the thing, though. Now we're here. I mean, GT350, right?
GT350?
Holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we have recalls.
It's unbelievable. Jaguar F-Type, when that came out, that was
Type
a big...
R.
Yeah. I mean, we had transmission issues on the Type R. There's a lot of stuff going on. So here we have the Stingray with transmission issues. And now what are we going to do? We're going to go throw a whole bunch more power at it. Is it the same box? It's the same gearbox,
so
right?
I'm assuming it's the same casing.
All right.
I'm going to assume they changed the ratios because obviously this is naturally aspirated with way more horsepower, so they probably did something internally.
Yeah.
But... I hope they fixed that issue. I mean, or they've looked into the issue, or they knew about it,
right?
Which is usually the case. These companies know about it, but it's too late in their production cycle, as you know all too well.
Oh yeah.
And they're just going to come out with a recall. But this car appears to be doing something that Chevrolet has had on their, on their back foot for a long time, and that's the Nürburgring lap record. The C7 couldn't do it because of it being front mid-engined. It couldn't beat the record or any sort of record for that matter, the Vipers.
Oh, right? Yeah. I drove my first Viper the other day.
I don't think they ever did a C7 ZR1, official lap time. But I would assume that this C8, they're going after something. And I'm going to assume it's a lap record of some sort.
Here's the thing. They're up against... So the car, not in price, but in philosophy, is always going to be chasing giants, right? This car the Z06 is out there to tackle a Ferrari. The point of a car like this is to say, let's call it 130 grand. Is that fair? Let's say 130 grand is going to beat anything it'll beat anything under 300. Right? That's kind of where they're at. And we've started to see some of the, we've seen like the 296 come out, the Ferrari 296. That's going to be a monster, like an absolute monster, because everyone's going hybrid. So the beauty of the Corvette is that it can't lose, even if it loses. And this is because everyone's basically got what's going to be like all-wheel drive hybrid systems and, crazy V8 or V6 power plants, depending on what the car is. So if we take a 296, this car is going to have, around 900 horsepower, somewhere in that vicinity. It's kind of something ridiculous,
it's
right?
It's going to be ridiculous.
And now you have a fucking Corvette that is going to be the baby with a mere 670 horsepower. And even if it's 10 or 5 seconds off of this on a Nürburgring lap time, you're going to say, well, it costs X amount less. It costs X amount less. So who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, the value, and that's what's always been the Corvette thing. It's the cheap sports car that every person can buy.
Yeah.
But this car is pushing itself into a stratosphere of cars. We're talking McLarens, Ferraris, GT3s. I don't think Ford has anything, right? Well, the Shelby.
Yeah, but
but that's too big.
Ford has the GT, and the GT, frankly, is less about its power plant and more about its chassis and suspension, right?
Chassis design, aerodynamics, and being able to do with not that much.
So this is like one of the first times we've seen an American car with an engine that looks like it came out of the greasy shop and went into the fucking laboratory.
Yeah.
Right?
They have been working on this for years. A lot of people don't know, but Chevrolet has been working on this engine for a very long time in their motorsports programs. And it was I think it was in the CT6 Blackwing. I think a version of it.
Not flat though.
No, but the block.
Okay.
I'm not entirely positive on that, but the architecture, the 5.5.
But they have been running race cars with the flat plane.
Yes.
With the flat plane crank.
A version of it.
So that gives us some hope that we're not walking into a beta test.
Yeah, I think Chevrolet, if there's one thing they're pretty good at, it's their motors, and their engines for the most part tend to be pretty stout.
That's pretty good. I'm excited. I don't have much more to say about it other than I'm excited for them. I'm excited for a new thing that's so over the top and so ridiculous. And I still stand by the fact that I think as cool as the car is, it's pretty ugly. I can't get over it. The big wing, neat. You know the way I'd have it? I've seen a little shorty, like a little lip spoiler. Ooh, yes. It's like the GT3 Touring of the Corvette Z06.
I was going to say, do we call it the Touring Z06?
The Z06T? Oh my God. So that's cool. I mean, and it puts itself in what was supposed to be GT3 pricing territory if it's at that 130 to 140 range, because, for years and years and years, that's what a GT3 cost. It was a $140,000 car all the time. Now everything's $1 million, not $1 million, but you know what I'm talking about. Everything's $200,000.
Yeah.
I mean, we're really looking at 180 to 2 something to get into a GT3 at this point, assuming there's no dealer markups.
Is that like confirmed? Like if I wanted to get a GT3, I'm looking at.
You can already have them. They're delivering.
Oh my God.
You saw them the other day, didn't you?
No. I've seen them, but I didn't know the cost.
I'm pretty sure they're at that level. I mean, I'll cut this out if that's not true, but I'm pretty sure they're all like. I don't think you're actually getting a GT3 anything less than 180.
That's ridiculous.
It's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Wow. World's changing, man.
It's nuts. So, what's on your list? That was one of the things on my list.
I wanted to talk to you about Subaru.
Yes.
2 things. The WRX, the new one. I wanted your opinion on it, what your feelings were of it. And this news article that came out a couple days ago, maybe a week ago, about how Subaru is disabling Starlink, which is their GPS system for onboard diagnostics in the state of Massachusetts for all new vehicles.
You know how I love Subaru. All right, tell me what, in practice, if I have a Subaru and I have Starlink, what exactly does it do for me?
Yeah, see, that's the problem. I don't actually know because I haven't been in a new Subaru with Starlink. But from my understanding, it's the ability to do onboard diagnostics remotely. And that's the reason it's violating our laws for consumer rights for right to repair.
Oh, so it sounds like what they don't want is they don't want to allow any of the like mom and pop shops, local shops, independent shops, to be able to use this in order to read diagnostic data on the car.
Precisely.
Okay. So instead of being like, they just shut it down.
Yeah, they just said it is not activated on all new Subarus that are sold in Massachusetts.
No, does it really? So obviously it's a big kind of like, grumpy child like folding his arms and going, if I can't have it, nobody can. That's really obnoxious. But objectively, when I call Jake or you call Farley or any of our local mechanics, I never would think like, hey, Jake, can you tap into my Outback and tell me why I'm throwing a check engine code? I'd fucking drive there and he's plugging in. I mean, does it matter? Or is it just like the statement that matters? So
I think it's 2 things. The first thing is, I think there's a lot more that you can obtain from this system. That being, it's not like you're my OBD2 code reader that's like, here's a code, good luck.
Good luck.
Have fun.
Figure it out, idiot.
Exactly.
PO441, emissions evap failure.
I think this thing can go way deeper into the system and look at things at a much clearer level and give you probably a more easier way to understand it for people, right? It'll say like, your airbag light's on, you're an idiot.
Every Subaru owner right now listening to this is like, that's not what it does. It doesn't.
No, exactly. Yeah. Starlink connects to the network.
I data log with Starlink.
So I think Subaru, in their anger and childish behavior, just said, well, you know what? If we can't have it, nobody can have it.
Jeez.
And they just killed it. Whether or not that changes like the pricing, I don't know if they're like giving it a discount or whatnot, or it changes like your navigation systems or other systems inside. But I know just reading the article, like down below, people are like, oh, I can't start my vehicle now remotely. So maybe it has to do with that, like a phone app.
So hang on, let me look this up. Subaru Starlink. Starlink Multimedia I'm just kidding. Starlink Multimedia connects you and your Subaru to music, news, navigation, podcasts, and everything. So this is basically like the multimedia connectivity of your car. So they just crossed their hands and pouted. It also does safety and security. Like what was the OnStar? That was like.
So it's like a newer version of OnStar.
So.
What's it with them and their fascination with stars?
I don't know. They probably were lazy and just couldn't think of a better name. But wow. All right. So, Subaru, you're going to, how shitty that is to do that in Massachusetts? Because like, imagine Subaru being like, fine, we're not going to sell to New England. And be like, well, there go your sales.
That's literally what I thought. I'm like, you're killing off probably a third of your market in New England. In Massachusetts. I mean, how many people buy Subarus?
And just to be clear here, while it is a really shitty thing to do, I'm looking at an image of what Starlink looks like, and trust me, you're not missing out. This is a piece of shit.
Oh god,
this is like this is like using
Crutchfield.
This is awful. God, we need Apple CarPlay.
Yeah, that's all we want.
All we want. We don't want. Oh, you can't have Starlink. Oh no, I can't have Starlink. Great. That's like playing Snake on your fucking Nokia. All right.
And then the 2022 WRX. So an article was posted on Drive, which is still a thing.
Well,
apparently.
Speaking of Drive, I spent like my whole Radwood day with Mike Spinelli.
Well, he came out with a great article about.
All right, let's hear it from Mike. Let's see what.
So, the WRX. Now, I've been so busy. I haven't. This is the first week that I've really been able to get back on things. But the 2022 WRX isn't particularly liked. Now, do you know anything about it?
Other than it has like a really it looks like they really picked up their pants in the back and they were like, we mean business. Like that's what I see in there.
So first thing, it doesn't look like a performance car. It looks like a crossover.
Yeah, it does. It has that kind of high waist. It's got like this weird vibe to it. I frankly, when I saw it, I was like, that's fine. I'm cool with this. Everyone lost their goddamn minds.
People lost it. And
vape companies are going out of business as we speak.
I mean, I thought it. You know what it reminded me of? Do you remember those like early 2000s Nissans Xterras?
Yeah.
The plastic cladding that fades over time, or Chevy Avalanches.
Yep.
I'm thinking to myself, 3 or 4 years, that thing's gonna be faded to shit.
Yeah, but they've been using that kind of fascia on a Crosstrek for a long time. I mean, that's not new.
Well, that's what they're going for, the the generic look, but it doesn't look right. But whatever. That's not the thing that bothers me most. The thing that bothers me most about it is apparently the highest end trim level, which comes with the Recaro seats, the adaptable suspension, the better drive ratio, is only in, now let me just phrase this. Subaru calls it, I believe it's like their performance transmission or something, like drive transmission.
Tell me it's a CVT.
It's a CVT.
Fucking A.
So if you want to get the fastest model, you have to go with the CVT.
Ooh. And this is until we got the STI, I assume, in a 6-speed?
I assume so.
So this is kind of like how... So the new Honda, for example, just came out with the new SI, right? It's priced at $27,000, pretty reasonable. But it only comes in that just like last time, it only comes in that 1.5-liter turbo, which I'm not a big fan of this engine just because I don't trust it. I feel like it's going to have reliability issues. They've already had like oil and gas mixing in the damn thing. So
yeah, I mean...
I want the 2-liter. Give me an NA 2-liter that revs to 7,500 RPM. I don't even need 9 grand. Give me 7,500 RPM on a 2-liter. I'm good to go.
They're going to have to put like 9 catalytic converters on that engine to pass.
I mean, it's just such a shame that when you go on a Honda or Subaru website, like let's say you go to a dealer and you're like, hey, I want to get these cars. It used to be that you were searching between, like, let's say you want a manual transmission. You literally can't find them anymore. You go on any of their inventory and there might be one car that has a manual transmission. Now, what I'm realizing is I'm just fighting for a torque converter automatic. If I go and like, let's say I want a Honda Accord, I want a V6 Accord Touring or whatever the heck it is, I don't know. And I want this car to have like a 10-speed or whatever the heck they have as an auto. I can't get it. They don't exist. Like when you go on, they'll be like as rare as manuals used to be is how rare torque converter automatics are becoming. They're all CVT, and I genuinely thought that Nissan's commitment to the CVT back in the day was like, oh good, this is so atrocious that no one will follow this lead. Holy shit, was I wrong? Because look at Subaru, look at Honda. We are in a CVT nightmare. And I don't care if they become more reliable. They're not fun or engaging to drive. And there is nothing more miserable than listening to this poor fucking engine rev itself to death at 5,000 RPM and just hold it there.
So, you bring up a really good point about technology. And when I think of the CVT, I think of something that was clearly overlooked, but people just put vision up, blinders up, and said, you know what, we're not going to look at the bad sides of things.
Well, because from an engineering side, there's so many upsides. The CVT, so the purpose of a CVT, the purpose of a continuously variable transmission, is to maintain the torque curve, the level of torque required for the request from the driver. So every time you've ever been in your car and you've gone to pass somebody and you add throttle and you wait for a downshift, it revs out, you run out of revs, it has to shift, which means you've now shifted your power band. So now you've got less power than you had at redline because you've had to upshift. So now the revs have come back down. This is eliminated 100% by the CVT because CVT, you ask for something, it puts it at the level of which you've asked for it. So you need this much power and this much torque. It's going to give you that and it's going to hold it there basically. Now, then they've gone and done all this stupid trickery because people don't like the reality of a CVT. So they add these kind of fake simulated gear ratios. So the car feels or basically the tuning forces the CVT to change its ratio in order to simulate a shift because people were just so unsettled by their car. Like, you add half throttle, it goes to 4,000 RPM and just sits there until you pull out, right? That's like a weird thing.
Yeah.
And people didn't like that. So now we've basically taken a transmission that had a genuine purpose on paper. People were like, ugh, this is yikes. And so then they've gone and instead of just being like, you know what, fuck it, we don't really need this. We can give people a really good, solid automatic that's going to basically do all the same things and be more robust. No, instead they just cover it up with like tuning and bullshit software to make it mimic a transmission that it was designed to be better than.
Yep.
I know that's a crazy rant, but like it drives me bananas. And I swear to God, seeing paddle shifters on a CVT.
Well, you're not going to like the 2022 WRX GT then because it has tunable gear ratios or something, and it has like 8 speeds or something. So
it could have a million speeds.
It could have 800.
We could have as many digits as they can display on that little dashboard.
They made sure to let everybody know that it's like 30% quicker upshifts and downshifts. Then what? And that's all we know.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Another just
and the thing is CVTs are not serviceable transmissions. So when your CVT, cooks, you just replace it. And it is not a cheap thing to replace.
Actually, I wanted to ask you about SEMA. SEMA's going on right now. Is there anything that you are looking forward to seeing?
Nothing. Not a single thing. There is nothing that show has to offer me that makes me think, my goodness, Edward, I'm going to jump on a fucking plane to my least favorite city in this here country. I hate Las Vegas. I fucking hate Las Vegas. This is not a celebration to me. If you said, Tom, we're going to Vegas, I'm going to be like, and when are we coming home? That's all I want to know is when do we get to come home?
So,
what do I want to go see Chip Foose? Am I going to go look at a bunch of chrome fucking spinner? I'm sorry. I need to be nicer to people. I'm not just some schlub on the street anymore, so I can't pick fights with like actual people.
You know what, though?
I don't care. Chip, good for you, Chip Foose. You've made a great career for yourself.
This is exactly why I asked you, because I wanted to hear your reactions, because I know what you feel about the aftermarket industry as a whole.
I like the aftermarket industry typically, but what happens at SEMA is just an abomination of crack pipe builds, getting there on a trailer, barely rolling off the trailer into a booth where they can be scrutinized by, unfortunately, very good iPhone cameras now. And you could be like, well, check out the welds on this. And it's, look, I get it. I think it's good for a lot of small aftermarket companies to get known. You want to be out there. You want to show off what you've got in the aftermarket. You want racing teams or, influencers or whoever the heck is going to be there to see the thing you've just made. Like, for example, Acuity. I think this is a great place. Acuity can go and show off their shifters. There's definitely a huge Honda market. That's great. But what drives me nuts is like these 4 SEMA builds that are atrocious, ugly. There's like a SEMA tone that takes place, and all I think of is like chameleon paint and fucking pinstriping and wheels that make no sense and tires that don't exist, that don't fit, and shit that just doesn't actually function. It's like the biggest fucking snake oil show in the country. People walk in and they're like, wow, how did they do that? Well, they didn't do it. It's a model. It's a fucking model.
Doesn't turn over.
Doesn't do it. Doesn't do the thing that they say it does.
So, like, for me, when I look at SEMA nowadays, so as a kid, I thought SEMA was like a fucking Toys R Us, all right?
I'd rather go to fucking Nopi Nationals at this point than fucking SEMA.
That's perfect, because that's what brings up to my next. So, mind you, I was a kid, okay? This was 2005.
Yep.
It's still the same thing that it was in 2005.
It looks the same.
I mean, some of these builds, I swear to God, are the same vehicles just rewrapped or repainted in a different chameleon color.
It's unreal. And here's the thing. So I do appreciate it for the fact that it brings people together. Like,
totally.
I like this. This is, I'm not going to be a total Debbie Downer on this, but I just think that, like, now SEMA is almost like a YouTuber Comic-Con where it's not to go see the. Can name 10 booths? Name 10 booths of aftermarket suppliers that are at SEMA right now. I bet you could name 3.
I mean, I would assume Honda's there, right?
Aftermarket. No, aftermarket.
Aftermarket. I couldn't name
10. 10. Name 20. Name 50. There's like probably 1,000 there. You probably couldn't name 10.
Well, yeah.
But why do you go? You go there because you want to go see, I don't know, like Johnny Lieberman or Matt Farah or TJ Hunt. Like, you want to see the cars in real life. Like, Stradman has brought his Bugatti. To me, that is the shift in SEMA. So that's fine, because I think if you're a fan of people like that, if like, if you're into these YouTubers, if you're into these types of builds, like maybe you really want to see like, what's Alex Choi's new thing, Yeah. That's a good place to do it. It's all conglomerated in one place, and that adds up. You can get your rocks off by seeing all the influencers' toys that you've ever wanted to see.
Next year, do you want to go to SEMA?
Fuck yeah, we're going. I've already booked the tickets. We're flying Southwest, baby.
Oh my God. All right. I want a fleet update.
On my fleet?
On your fleet.
All right. I have a fleet update.
Because
not good.
Because the videos, the M5, oh, that's great, but they don't know the other one.
Oh, whoops. Okay. So, if you're new to the Tedward universe, I own some very exotic I am like the most normal ass YouTuber.
They're becoming exotic.
Yeah, they are. Over time, I'm getting cooler and cooler because what were objectively normal cars are now becoming like sought after unicorns in this naturally aspirated universe. Okay, so I've got a 2010 M3. S65 coupe, space gray, carbon roof, the good stuff, an 88 911, and the 01 M5. Now the M5, if you've watched the videos, which I hope you have because daddy needs money, let me zip that up. The is my sweater, not my fly.
It was his fly. Don't listen to him.
So the M5 just got like a fully new cooling system. It got a new upper oil pan gasket to prevent leaks, and then that did not solve our leak, so it got a new rear main seal. Shout out to Wild Motorsport for just putting their whole fucking heart and soul into this car.
I have to stop here for a second. Let me just say something that wasn't said on the video. I had said to Tom years ago that it was the rear main seal. Oh no, it can't be that. Not possible. The world would have to end before it was that. Come to find out, I was right.
Yeah, you were right. So I'm giving you that. Eddie was right. Insert some stupid like, yay! Okay, so Eddie was right. It was a rear main seal. But in the meantime, we also did like center support bearing because I had this driveline vibration. Just so we replaced like motor mounts, all of these little annoying things because I just wanted the car to be drivable and functional and great. Okay, so M5, I've been daily driving it. Now, this was not the plan. I was not supposed to be daily driving this car. The car has 79,000 miles or 79.8 when it went into the shop. Now I'm at 81,000 miles.
Wow.
Yeah. I put like 1,000 miles on the thing. And this is because literally the week I get the M5 back, I'm driving my M3, which is my daily driver. And I'm starting to notice it's got this driveline vibration. Now it's throwing check engine codes for two things. A secondary air MAF sensor, just part of the emission system. It's a sensor that's integrated into this hose. You have to replace the whole thing. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. We have done it. I've done it like 30 or 40,000 miles ago. It fixed it. Okay. And it will not read the fucking oil level because this doesn't have a dipstick. It's got one of those electronic oil condition sensors up in the, and it goes up from the bottom up into the oil pan. So you can't just be like, oh, it broke and pop it out. You're doing an oil change every time you want to do this. So you're going to drain it. So anyway, I replace it. FCP Euro sends me a new one. And I'm like, well, I'll plug it in. It'll work. It's broken in the past. And it fixed it when I got the new one. Well, come to find out, doesn't fix it. So I'm like, you know what? It's going to go to Jake's. I'm just sending it to Wild Motorsport. They're going to sort it out, figure out if there's a ground wire or some dumb thing happening. So I send it to Jake's. And I'm thinking that my driveline vibration, like to me, I'm like, it's probably like a wheel bearing or something. I mean, like, yeah, it makes sense. Car's got 106,000 miles on it, and I've been tracking it here and there. So sure, it should have blown a wheel bearing or something. Well, they're like, you know what? Your drive shaft needs to be rebuilt because this U-joint is making that like thunk noise in reverse and all this stuff. I'm like, ugh. So anyway, now I've been daily driving the damn M5 because I've got no drive shaft in the M3 because I had to send it to Texas. Yeah,
Texas.
Yeah, I thought this. Like, I thought they were sending it down the street. No, this isn't their fault. This is just me interpreting things. Like, yeah, we got a shop. The fucking thing's in Texas, so it's like 2 days to get there, 2 days to get back, and of course, come to find out, they don't have, and they've like never serviced one of these E92 drive shafts before, so they have to like wait on the U-joint or whatever the heck they're doing to rebuild it. Then they rebalance it and send it back. It is much cheaper than buying a new drive shaft.
Well, I would assume that no one really replaces the drive shafts on these cars or fixes them, right?
They just replace them.
Yeah,
and it's like $800 or $900 to replace it, maybe more. It's like $400 or $500 to do this.
So big savings.
It's a big savings.
Significant savings.
Right, and frankly, the drive shafts that you get when you buy new ones, they're not really, from what I can tell, I don't think they're like OEM drive shafts. They're like, made in China, this whole thing. So I don't think they're very good. I'd rather maintain the drive shaft I've had it rebuilt by a reputable shop and balanced and sent back. So that's what we're doing.
And you could actually upgrade the drive shaft if you wanted to go that route.
Yes. So I'm not doing that, but whatever. So anyway, I just am really praying that all of this gets done before there's any snow on the ground because the M5 is not seeing winter. So I'm going to just Turo a fucking car if the M3 is still not done by the time it snows. But I think we'll be okay. I think we're going to be in the clear. So I'm really hoping I get my car back.
I can't believe this because I think you spoke about this with me like a month ago about this being like, oh yeah, I'm dropping it off. I think it just needs a wheel bearing.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Well, so the problem with it, it's not their fault. Like, it's not like, oh, Jake's taking all this stuff. No, the car started showing me these symptoms about the exact same day I was going to bring the M5 home. And I'm like, well, screw it. I'm just going to swap cars because then I don't have to have you come and pick me up and do all this stuff. So I'm like, hey, Jake, I'm just going to leave this here. Now, keep in mind, Jake's shop is like 3 weeks out on service calls right now. Okay. So me going and dropping the car off is a convenience for me. And that's it. Because I didn't have to go get a ride. But it meant that my car basically wasn't going to get looked at for a while. So that's the thing. It wasn't like he was like, oh, leave it here. It was like, hey, can I leave it here? Because I'm going to need these things. And then they'll get to it when they get to it. No big deal. So anyway, that's where we're at. So basically, I'm just hoping I get the car back before winter.
And then last but not least, the old 911.
911. So the 911 is great. It needs like three tiny little things. One, the fan belt is a little loose and I just need to tighten it. I've never done it before, so I've just been like a little nervous about it. You've got to shim it basically. So the way you tension these air-cooled cars is you take the big nut off the fan, and then there's I think 6 shims, and you put them depending on how tight you want it. You put like 3 on each side, and then if it's loose, you swap them. So then you'll have like 4 on each one side and 2 on the other, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing. So I need to just move a shim.
Gotcha.
And I just haven't done it. And then it needs an oil change, and it's idling a little high. It's idling at like 1,000 RPM. So there's a little idle control valve thing that you can just knock down, which I've never done either, but I just think I need to knock it down. Actually, a commenter noticed that. I did a video on the car a while back, and someone said, hey, your car's idling high. Then he proceeded to say, you need an engine overhaul. I'm like, you're fucking moron. So,
he knows a lot, clearly.
I'm sure, but he did point it out because I didn't fucking notice. I wasn't really paying attention to it.
I know it's getting to the end of the season. Are you going to drive it at all? Are you going to try to get out one last run, or is it?
It's probably just going to come home because I'm going to leave. I think the goal for me right now is the M5 will stay at Garage 42 because I think that car needs the climate control more than any other car. Right? Like, I think that car...
The leather and everything.
I think that car would be better in that atmosphere than because the 911 really, it's just cloth and steel and some aluminum and stuff. Like, it's pretty...
It's been... You've left it here before.
Yeah.
It's
still going to be indoors. Yeah. It's just not in a climate-controlled environment. Unless I find another spot for it, which is possible, but... the only reason they're not both sitting at Garage 42 is just because he's at capacity.
There's no room.
There's not a single goddamn spot left there. What am I advertising this guy for?
I know.
Anyway, if David
need space, good luck.
If David gives you the finger, you can call Bond Group in Waltham because they actually do have spaces available. Sorry, David, I gotta make my nut. But yeah, Bond Group over at Sirio's place in Waltham, they've got spots available. So until David figures out how to open up capacity. That's the deal.
I'm sure he's thinking of ways.
I bet he's got something up his sleeve.
Oh, I'm
Always.
sure.
All right, and then last but not least, if you remember, Craft Detailing went ham on my M5, and they did a full fucking crazy paint correction on the car, and it looks incredible. It's ceramic coated. It looks great. You can actually tell the car's carbon black now. There's no swirl marks.
They are awesome. They did not only Corey's car, but then after I got back from my massive trip to Atlanta and back, they detailed the Durango, which I had basically been living in for the last 2 days, pretty much. So they detailed that inside and out. They did a fantastic job.
Drain the shitter.
Drain the shitter. I'm sure they probably found a bunch of stuff in there. It's just, yeah. So, it looks awesome. They did a fantastic job.
Just a seat full of Powan's farts.
Oh, my God.
Just thank God for those Alcantara inserts.
I know.
They just absorb everything. Well, so I went to drive Coder Man, our friend Matt Keefe's two-door Bronco, because he got his two-door Bronco,
I didn't know
diamond, black diamond or Sasquatch package, black diamond, whatever. Very cool. And he's like, hey, you're not gonna find one of these. He's not wrong. And he's like, you want to drive it? I'm like, hell yeah, I want to drive it. So I go to his house, I pick up the car, I leave the M5, I do my thing, I come back, and he lives in this little cul-de-sac, right? And there were these 2 kids, probably 12-year-old boys playing football in the cul-de-sac. Now, me, being who I am, I have my M5 in a cul-de-sac with 2 12-year-old boys playing football. So naturally, my inclination is murder these fucking children who have a fucking flying object near my goddamn car. But anyway, I'm like, I don't live here. I'm going to just be chill. So before I left the house, I did a football check. Basically, I just went around my car, making sure that they hadn't left some massive dent on the hood or the roof or something. God, yeah. And then I'm going to drive away and never be able to ruin these kids' lives. Because
your child put a dent
they're
in
losing,
my M5.
Yeah, they're losing those fucking hands if there's a dent on the car. Okay, they'll never throw a ball again. I assure you.
You'd be horrible to deal with if you worked at a rental car agency because you would write down every little thing.
Oh yeah,
and then it'd come back like, you did that. That wasn't there.
Yeah, you don't want me working at places like this. So anyway, the car looked good, but I look at the hood.
Oh no.
And all I'm seeing are scratches. Oh. Scratches all over this hood. And I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And now my heart is pounding because I'm like, how is this possible? This car was a mirror finish.
Yeah.
How did this happen? And I'm thinking the only way this happened is because I've washed the car twice. Oh. And I've used I've done it in a way I've never used this before, but Kraft gave it to me. They were like, "Hey," I was like, "I need you to fit me in for a wash." They're like, "We literally have no spots open, but why don't you do this, rinseless kit?" And they give me this beautiful big red sponge and like the special stuff and like all the accoutrement associated. But it like always made me nervous because I've always washed cars with like a foam gun and a mitt and like 2 buckets and all that stuff. And this feels like just the wrong way, right? Like you're like, oh my God, I'm just gonna like basically put this sponge to paint. And then I'm not going to rinse it. I'm going to wash it with this sponge, like kind of just scrape everything off of it. And then I'm going to go over it with like a ceramic spray and a nice, clean microfiber mitt and dry it properly. Now I've done this twice, and the 2 times I'm like, oh my God, this is a goddamn miracle. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I'm like, wow, this is great. And I'm not using gallons and gallons and gallons of water to do it. I feel better about the environment. I feel better about my water usage. My car is clean. End of story. Okay. So now I'm thinking, did I destroy my car by doing this? And I'm like having a hard. So I'm start driving home and I'm like, I can't even think straight. So I pull over. I'm driving home and I pull over and I'm just looking at the car. Anyone who's driving by me is probably looking at me like, what the fuck? This guy's just staring at his car, and I got my fingernails and then that's when I'm realizing these aren't scratches. They're spider webs.
Oh, dear.
And it's those little spiders, those little kind of
little
translucent, like clearish brown spiders. And they just go up and down your car and they drag their little asses, leaving web. And it looks like scratches. And when they're fresh, you can kind of blow them away or even just nudge them. When they're baked in on the sun, they kind of start looking like scratches, and can't get them off that easily. So you do have to wash the car to get this shit out. So anyway, I went home. I washed the hood. I just washed that one panel to check, and it looks great. There's some deep scratches. There are some deep scratches that were in the car to begin with. Like when we did this paint correction, to me, I was like, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. They're like, look, we went as far as was reasonable.
It's a 20-year-old car.
Exactly. But now I'm getting to be one of these paint people, and I don't want to be a paint person because do you know how hard it is to be somebody who cares about paint, but also lives on Earth in the real world where you drive a car? Like, it's impossible.
Not possible.
You can't. This is like having children and living in a museum.
Yes. Best way to describe it. So I used to be a paint person when I was in my, younger days, and I had the time to actually take care of it. But as soon as I started doing the whole race car thing, that went out the fucking window. I'll tell you that.
It's horrible. So I think, I'm going to just do my best to keep it as good and clean and together as possible, but I cannot let this ruin my life. In fact, I was so for 72 hours before I washed the hood to figure out what was really going on. I was like, I was almost in tears like 2 or 3 times because I was just so stressed out that they had put so much work into this car and I potentially ruined it. So I called Leah at Craft Detailing. I called her after I figured out everything was good. And it was like a confession. This is how I know that like I was raised Catholic. I had to call her and tell her what happened. I called her and I'm like, do you have 15 minutes? And she goes, yeah. And I just confessed this whole story. And she's just laughing her ass off at me. She's like, Tom, it's fine. And if you fucked it up, we'll bring it back. We'll take care of it. But I was like, no, but you don't understand. The guilt I felt for potentially screwing up the job that you did was so immense. I was just ashamed. I'm like, I felt this huge sense of shame. Like I just ruined this thing that you did.
Any cool stuff on the horizon that people might be interested in?
I drove my first Beetle today. 74 Super Beetle, kind of cool, fully restored, really gorgeous, 1600 cc, orange. I mean, it's like the most immaculate Beetle I've ever seen. I think it has like 20,000 miles on it. This dude's owned it since 1996. It's very cool.
Wow, he's had it for a long time.
Yeah. And what else we got? Tomorrow I'm going to Monticello Motor Club with our friend Chris Benvey of, him from Cannonball stuff. But yeah, he offered me a seat at a Porsche experience thing. So we're going to drive a bunch of Porsches. Have some fun.
That's going to be a blast.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So the horizon looks good.
It's okay. I think we're coming up to winter. I've got a new MacBook Pro on the way.
Oh, yes. I did want to bring this up. The reason October was a little slow for you or you were a little nervous about it is because someone bought a big boy.
Oh, my God. I spent a lot of goddamn money. I spent basically $4,100 before taxes on the computer.
Oh, my God.
Because I maxed out a 14-inch, basically. So it's a 2 terabyte hard drive with 64 gigabytes of RAM and the new M1 Max. Now, the reason for this is because I edit everything in like 4K. I need a machine that can do crazy video and graphics, because that's what my life is video editing. Yet I can't go anywhere right now because I'm stuck to my desktop, my M1 Mac Mini, because I was waiting for this MacBook Pro. I didn't want to buy the last generation MacBook Pro. I didn't want the touch bar. I didn't want any of this bullshit.
Yeah, the lack of USB ports.
Yeah, very annoying. No SD card reader, stuff that's just really a pain in my ass. So I've been really like stuck to the house because I have to edit here. So this will enable me to do a road trip. This will enable me to get on an airplane and not a private jet that I'm bringing my monitor on, which I did.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
I brought a keyboard, a mouse, a monitor on this fucking jet. But I can't count on that.
No, you cannot.
Cannot count on that. I'm not always going to have a G4 taking me places. So for normal stuff, now I'll have a laptop coming in early December. So that means winter, if things get slow, I can get my ass out to California or somewhere warmer and make some content.
Get the vlogs going again, Tom.
I mean, something going on. So we'll be all right.
Yeah, I'm most excited for, well, first thing, I keep saying first thing. I don't know. There's like a million things I could say for the first thing. Track season's over for me, I think.
Yeah.
I thought about doing another event, but I don't have any tires left. So, and it's really cold, and I'm tired. I hadn't been home for over a month on the weekends.
No, you guys are traveling like crazy.
So to be home, I'm like, oh, thank God.
And I think that's a good place to cut it. I mean, God, we talked for a long time. It just went everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So I figured this is probably like the 49 minutes that's worth showing you. But update since we recorded. The M3 is back. I have a rebuilt drive shaft, and now, oh my goodness, that U-joint, the new U-joint that doesn't clunk under every downshift, what a luxury. I just want to thank you guys so much for the support, just for listening to this, watching the YouTube videos, and if you're so kind, donating on the Patreon. It means the world to me. So thank you so much. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.